to a midsummer edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. And in Maryland, the land of pleasant living, home of the Baltimore Orioles, and home of my longtime friend, John Webster. John, how are you this morning?
Hey, man, I'm doing real good, Gary. Hey, glad to see everybody watching us today. It's going to have a great episode today. Well, we're going to talk about the World Cup and what transpired with Belgium and the United States. And then we're going to talk about Wimbledon. But first, before we get started, we have brought back our analyst, our soccer guru, our one and only, Jimmy Bell. Jimmy, welcome back, man.
Glad to be here. Glad to be back. And glad to know I still got you guys fooled to be your guru.
Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to start this off. The United States had an unfortunate defeat to Belgium, 4-1. I have a couple questions. I know Gary has some. One of the questions I'll ask you, what happened? Where did they fall short? What could they have done differently? The other question I want to ask you, because you played goalie, high school, youth, travel teams, college, what could the goalie for the United States, what is it, Jim Breeze? Jim Breeze. What could he have done differently? And let me just say this, in my opinion, I think the United States was on the defense almost the entire game. I mean, the first 3 minutes is like Belgium had 6 shots on goal. They had one 40 seconds in. I just, what happened there last night? What happened with the game? Talk to us.
Well, I would tell you a couple of quick things. On the show, when I was here last, I think I made the assertion that 10 teams can win it. We would be the 10th, talking about the United States. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, we're going to look like the 16th because I don't think anybody took it on the chin this round to the level that we did. Mm-hmm. In soccer, we always talk about being on the front foot. Are you attacking or are you waiting? And so Belgium came out on the front foot, and I think they're in a place where they play more high-quality games than we do. The stadium didn't affect them. They were really, really prepared, and they jump. And, as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until I hit them. And you get hit, the plan looks rough. And so a good way to look at it, and it's a great analogy for, you and I, because we're both big basketball guys too, can't have as many turnovers as the U.S. does all over the field and think that that's part of what you're going to work for you. It's not. And so once the snowball started rolling down the hill, quite frankly, they lacked the ability to stop it. Now you move on to Mr. Freeze's faux pas. The bottom line in that situation is it's okay to come out of your goal. It's really hard to verbally communicate to your guys in a stadium that loud. But when you come out of your goal, you have to be precise, you have to move with purpose, and you have to limit the probability of mistakes. You take more than one touch, it better be great. He took a bad touch, tried to take a second touch. He put a 38-year-old defender who, by my assertion, shouldn't have been playing, period, in a really bad spot. And that's the hardest thing. What I, as a coach, always told my players, especially my goalkeepers, and what was impressed upon me was make the easy plays. Spectacular plays are great. When you make a spectacular play, everybody goes crazy. But when you blow an easy play, for moments at a time, you lose the ability to command your troops from the back, and guys put their head down. And when they put their head down at 2-1, it's one thing. At 3-1, it's another. And at that point, they weren't in a position to stop it anymore. That being said, the hardest thing they can do right now is to say we had success. They had success. Can they clean some things up? Will they clean some things up? I anticipated some of the things you might ask. And one of the things was, we've got a limited pool of great goalkeepers in this country right now. We've got a lot of really good ones, but we don't have anybody who's great, who you think that guy should be our guy. There's no Tim Howard. There's no Tony Miola. There's no Jurgen Sommer. Those guys, the newest one of them hasn't appeared yet. And so you're going to have these moments. You hope you don't have them in front of 70,000 people in the round of 16 in the World Cup, but you're going to go through these moments with young goalkeepers. And it's funny too, because that's the thing about being a goalkeeper. Athleticism's great, but being a goalkeeper is more about how do you run the defense and where can you get your feet in position to make plays. And so in a lot of respects, you've got to be able to make those plays. So a lot of goalkeepers aren't in their peak until their mid-30s, which ironically is when field players are retiring.
With that being said, how many of those kids do you think will come back for the World Cup in, was it 2030? I mean, you got, what's the kid that hit the direct kick the last two games? What is that?
So I think it's Anderson. So if you factor in a certain level of attrition, a certain level of age out, I would hope that the roster turns over by either half or no more than 60%. So you've got a lot of young guys. Balogun. Pulisic will be the senior statesman next time, which is a little crazy when you think about it, but it's true.
Will he come back?
Oh, I would. You would too. And I don't know Gary as well as I know you, but I believe Gary has it in his heart too. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I agree. Based on what I've seen, I was wondering, who would be back.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. That's not the last thing I'm doing with that taste in my mouth. The only way I'm not coming back is if the coach doesn't select me. And I don't see the scenario where the roster turns over enough. There's enough players of his caliber that he's left off the roster. He's not Cristiano Ronaldo on a world setting, but he's our Cristiano Ronaldo. He's our Lionel Messi. So if he wants to play and he's in good physical condition, he's going to stay. How he plays, the effective number of minutes he can command, those are all things to be judged. But we've got to get stronger in the back. We need to find a number one goalkeeper. And more importantly, we need depth on the roster and on the bench so we can push players forward. Who you are is defined by what's behind you. A friend of mine, Troy Weaver, once told me, he's a GM in the NBA. But the thing that made John Stockton good was that old man was the best shape of everybody in the NBA at the time. And in the fourth quarter, guys that were 12 years younger than him, they thought they were going to push him around. He'd already run them to death. He knew he owned them. But he did it by putting in the work over a long period of time. But I think the roster turns over by a third to half. You need attacking players. You need a steadying influence defensively in that midfield. Tim Ream, he's a statesman's a good way to say it, but you can't play with a 38-year-old center back. And when you look at those 4 goals last night, and I hate to cast aspersions on individual players, but you're going to see Tim Ream in every one of those frames. And guys that knew that was coming back to haunt us sooner or later.
Yeah. My question, Jim, in watching some of these matches, that I see teams that apparently were built, I'm gonna say, front to back, and to an extent, I think the U.S. was built that way too, in terms of really trying to dictate the tempo. After last night, I'm wondering, and of course we're Monday morning quarterbacking here, but I'm wondering now, how do you strike that balance between maybe building front to back back to front, or somewhere in between. And maybe avoiding the knee-jerk reaction of looking at the score last night thinking, oh, well, we need more offense. We need to be more offensive. And my experience going all the way back to the Diplomats, covering the old Diplomats, is that it's not that easy. Well, scoring in soccer and football, excuse me, is not that easy as people think it is, and a lot of it is just years and years of coordinating at any level. And we've got 4 more years to prepare, but I feel like the next friendly that the United States plays is when it really should start. Where do you feel like that balance, that happy medium is?
So what's funny is I used to coach against a guy when I was a very young guy, 25, 30 years ago. And he was a mentor to me, and he treated me. Tom Bickey was his name. He's a legend in the junior college ranks as a coach. And Tom and I couldn't have been more like night and day. When I went to scout his team, I would go scout them 5 times during a 10-week season. And people would ask me, why do you go watch them so much? What are you learning from them? It's not what I'm learning from them. It's what I'm learning about them. And Tom was the guy who, the 25th player on the bench, he would figure that out in week 8 that might be his best player, and he would build him into his lineup. What I used to say was, he's the opposite of me. I looked at my lineup. I recruited these guys. I built the puzzle. I wanted to perfect the puzzle. So 10 days before the season started, I had the lineup set. We're playing this way. I want everybody to know their job. Quite honestly, I want some old school John Thompson. I know you're giggling in heaven at this line. I want some St. Leo games so guys understand that my way works and they buy in and believe all the way. But I think on some levels, to answer your question more succinctly, Gary, is you're a victim of what you have. And so we're built this year from a World Cup perspective. We are built with attacking and midfield players. We have a dearth of guys in the back. And Reem, again, not to pick on him, but he's the problem. And so that's the other part of it. In soccer, we always talk about the golden generation. Your guys have all peaked at the right age at the right time. But again, sometimes how you play is more circumstance to how guys have come together, age-wise, development-wise, position-wise. Are we ever going to be Spain and knock around a million little passes and wait you out till you lose your patience and then victimize you? I'm not so sure. I don't think that's built into our American ideology. Can we be more athletic? Again, last time we all met on here, I said that be careful. Somebody from Africa is going to upset somebody, and it's not really an upset. It's just going to look that way. I'll say this, South Africa, Ghana, you put Erling Haaland from Norway in with those guys, and they'd all still be playing. And Haaland's another answer to one of your side questions. He's a guy who just scores goals. And it's just not as easy as putting somebody on him. He's always drifting and getting into the right place. He doesn't care how it goes in. He'll try anything to get the ball into the goal. And he has the confidence that this is what I do. And that's been that way since he was 16. I remember when he was 17, 18, the big fight was who was going to sign him. And as a Man United fan, I was bitterly disappointed when Man City signed him. And so for us, we're getting there. The evolution is getting there. I would go back a couple of cycles, though, and say when we were in Brazil, Jurgen Klinsmann was the coach. He had brought in all of the military kids from Europe who had dual citizenship. He talked some of them into playing for us instead of their countries they were born in over in Europe. And he played a lot of really young guys. The problem was when they lost, our organization, U.S. Soccer, looked and said, he doesn't know what he's doing. He played way too many guys. He's got to go. He's the problem. He wasn't. Pochettino's not the problem. In his breakfast nook today, he's drinking coffee, revisiting the game. We all do that as coaches. There's some things he could have done had he been there longer, but given the time that he has, that game was going to happen the way it happened. And in retrospect, were he to stay 4 more years, and let's get this out of the way real quick, he's making a lot of money, so he doesn't have much reason to go unless he wants a bigger challenge. But what bigger challenge is there than getting us to the Final Four, getting us to the final, or winning the World Cup? And so if he stays and he has the freedom to do it the way he's doing it, I'm hugely confident. Like, I've already had some friends and colleagues that have sent me messages, and we've had chats this morning about our next coach should be Thierry Henry. And I see that raised eyebrow, my friend. I probably had that same look on my face when I read that on my phone. I think Thierry Henry is a brilliant analyst, but with no coaching experience, and that's the last thing we need right now. We need a coach manager who sees the future, builds the process, encourages the development of players. That's the thing I tell people. Look, there's 340 million people in this country. 170 of them are men. That means about 40 million of them are in the prime age to play for the national team. Again, sorry, Tim, but there's got to be somebody better than a 38-year-old to play at center back. Has to be. The trick is, can you find him? Can you get him enough games and experience? And then you cross your fingers when you turn him loose.
Yeah.
You
you caught that reaction, and it's just like, in the NBA, and we've seen this more than a few times. Somebody could be a really good commentator, in a 3-man crew. Next thing you know, they're coaching the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that's an example. Anyway,
be nice, Gary.
Yeah.
Well, and let me jump into something real quick with John and you both, because you're basketball guys, and so am I. I love that. Listen, I remember when Paul Westhead was running the system. We all do. And when he finally got the right guys, Bo Kimball, Hank Gathers, the kid with the sunglasses, bombing threes, you can't play like that because you can't prepare against them because nobody else plays like that. But much like the Wildcat in football, don't give guys who make a living doing this the chance to figure it out and to prepare, because they will figure it out and prepare. And if you don't adapt, it's like business. It's adapt or die. And you've got to constantly evolve. We need to evolve. We don't need to evolve away from Pochettino right now. We really, really don't. What we need to do is for more people to listen to what he's saying and develop our players in. And I don't, I would have played the yellow card guys, by the way, at the last pool game. And I told all my friends the same thing, and they all said, "You're crazy." I said, "Listen, nobody ever coached their guys to foul people and take yellow cards." But I want continuity. When somebody asked me, who would you start for the third game, I said, that's easy. The same guys who won the last game. I want guys to expect to win when we step across that line, not to wonder or to think or to hope, to expect to. And so Mauricio and I don't agree on that, and I'm going to send him a message. But on that line, you can't fault what he tried to do, what he did. And I stopped foaming at the mouth about this real quick too. I once told a couple of players that were walking away from the field after a loss that were getting on each other. I said, "Hey, everybody stop, be quiet." And I said it a little differently. I said, nobody went down there, put their shoes on and said, "We're trying to lose." Everybody's trying to win. Everybody wants to win. But it's hard when you lose for people not to turn and look and immediately reflect away to something else. Analysis, critique is always a great thing. But again, it has to have a purpose. Nothing really happened. I mean, there's things that you wouldn't have done. I'd have never, ever touched that ball twice. I'd have been scared to death. First touch I'd have had if I was freeze would have been blasted into the upper deck. And then I would have realized that I'm not that strong, but I would have tried it because it just wanted away from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because I'd say in terms of major competition, we're 2 years away from the Olympics, which I think is um, really I don't want to say breeding ground, but probably the next goal. Granted, it doesn't hold the same profile as World Cup, but a gold medal is still a gold medal if you can go after it. And I think that the talent pool we have is capable, and especially I'm trying to look at the positives from this World Cup experience, and there was a lot that I liked in terms of ball movement. The point that you made about age, sometimes I forgot about that point in terms of say your center back and forgetting 38 years old. But I really liked the approach. It seemed to be more aggressive. It seemed to be more proactive than reactive. And last night I think that was one of those rare times when they got hit in the mouth, and yes, they recovered for a second, but then another goal, and it just seemed like all the air just kind of went out. And I think that's another thing that they have to work on. I'm a fan of continuity because,
as am I.
Yeah, because I feel like once you develop a rhythm, you understand what the philosophy is, not only of the individual teams, but really of the men's national team program in general. And it's so easy to I guess want to change and just shake up things, but if you could stay the course, I think you can develop the kind of programs like a lot of the other ones, especially in the African nations, have developed. And I like to use Morocco as an example because again the team that was here in '94 that I covered, it's not so much just changeover of players, but that whole philosophy and looking at their record. What they did in the World Cup was really the manifestation of that. I do think what the United States did this time was a manifestation of the improvement. But as you said, there's still holes, but I don't think we should blow the whole thing up. You let some things take their course in terms of personnel turnover. I guess you could call it attrition, but I'm just going to call it turnover. And see what happens, because you got the Olympics 2 years away, and then you try to mine some kind of talent from CONCACAF and all those other competitions and a bunch of friendlies.
And it's funny, we were sharing this on the text chat this morning. I think you want to win some tournaments. The Olympics is kind of a weird thing because you're allowed 2 guys over the age of 23, I think it is, but everybody else has to be under 23. So that kind of sets some things up, for what you're doing. The Gold Cup's a different beast. You want to win that because you need to reaffirm that you're every bit what Mexico and Canada are. And the friendlies are, for me, glorified scrimmages. I just want guys to play in a bigger environment, to see what we're trying to do, and to be ready to move forward. But one of the things I'll say to you guys, the viewer, everybody, is this, though. American soccer is kind of here. Now, for some of us, that's been coming for 50 years. The problem is when we got here, a whole bunch of people followed us. And so if you hesitate as you're walking through that door, you're going to get run over by a dozen teams from Africa and the Cape Verdes of the world who, by the way, have said, yeah, we can do this too. And with success will breed investment. With investment will breed more success. And you don't want to be the person who's hoping other people screw up so you can hold your place. You want to get better to claim your place. But mark my words, everybody is. Listen, I'm half Italian. And if somebody over in Italy doesn't get themselves together fast, we're going to have some real problems. And we've already got real problems. But what we also have over there is we don't have any talent. period. None. And that's weird. I got guys asking me all the time, what's going on in Italy that there's nobody playing soccer and there's no talent? And I haven't been there in 10 years, but I'm going next year and I got to see it because I don't know what the heck's going on. And so we're in a good spot. But again, you gotta put the work in. You got to have a plan. As Wooden said, right? Failing to plan is planning to fail. I don't want anything to do with it.
You bring good points up, Jim. Gary as well. We'll see what happens for the remainder of the World Cup. Now, let's slide on over to Wimbledon and championship tennis at its finest. I have some breaking news for both of you. Coco Gauff just won her match. She is going to the Final Four, as I would call it. I know that's not the correct term in Wimbledon terminology, but in my world, we'll say she's going to the Final Four. She's going to play the winner of Naomi Osaka and another young lady named Mukava. Osaka, I think, is 14th seed, and Mukava is 10th seed. So we'll see how that goes. And on that men's side, you have Sinner. You got the Joker, you got Ferry, and you got Fritz. So it's open season. I guess what I would like to see would be Sinner play Joker in the next round, which would be the Final Four. What do you all think about both sides, the men and the women?
Well, John, I'd say, here in the States, we are definitely focused on the women, perhaps a lot more than the men. After Naomi's upset of Sabalenka, I really felt good about the development or the redevelopment of her game because grass was always her toughest surface. I think this is as far as she's ever advanced and at the All England club. But that's a big thing, I think, in terms of the time away that she had. Her struggles on surfaces other than hard courts to win a match like that, especially against the top dog, so to speak. And I hate to use that one, but that was just the thing yesterday where she just showed a very dogged determination, to win. And that, to me, that just shows a maturation in her game and an adjustment to the surface, which is tough. People don't understand how tough it is to play on clay and then grass in that Grand Slam. And she came, she made steps. Of course, we'd love to see Coco versus Naomi, not so much from the rivalry standpoint, but because those two are our hopes in a lot of these events. I mean, and they both have Grand Slams under their belt, and it's that one. I really think we could probably gauge who is. I don't know. It's not so much who's better, but where they are in terms of getting back to being in that conversation on a regular basis. Because some of Coco Gauff's events and some of the some Grand Slams, her performances rather, in some of the Grand Slams, you feel like, gosh, it could have been something more. And with this one, I think you could look ahead to the U.S. Open with this one and see that might be the player to watch. I'm kind of rooting for Osaka because I think she was about to be pigeonholed into that. Well, she had that one flash of brilliance, where she won 4. Excuse me, but it's not just a flash when you win 4 Grand Slam events in that period. I really want to see her take that next step and really become the kind of player that can compete on all 4 surfaces.
I'll tell you what, Jim? I think consistency is the thing. From a coach and a player standpoint, my first head coaching job, that was my motto that year. I told all my guys, I'd raise my hand, you'd see pictures of me in a crowd with my hand up, and I said, look, we're going to play up here. Anybody that doesn't show up to this level is getting smoked. Not our problem to make it look good. Smoke them. Because what you want is, as you're playing the St. Leos, is that you want to be ready to play those huge matches too. And that's what I think both those young ladies are looking for, is that long-term consistency. I'm going to be here week in and week out, tournament in, and you're going to see my best all the time. Don't show up expecting me to phone it in because it's a little tournament. I'm going to play great on every surface against everybody. And that's hard to do. People underestimate how hard it is to mentally, physically stay focused and provide that level all the time. It is like work, not just work, but work. And talent alone won't get you through it. And, you know, it's kind of funny too. I'm secretly rooting for the Joker on the men's side. And I root for him for one reason. I'm an old guy. And he's an old guy. And his window's closing. And it's unfortunate. But tennis is an unforgiving place. The youngster comes up and he doesn't have any respect for your inability to move. And if he can get you on the wrong day at the wrong time, it can get out of hand fast. And you suddenly look in the mirror and go, oh, wow, when did I get old?
With that being said, guys, who do you see? I'm going to take it from each of you. Who do you see winning the men's side on Wimbledon? Jim, you first.
Well, I'm secretly going to root for the Joker.
I got
Sinner's going to be hard to beat, but I'm secretly rooting for the Joker.
What about you, Gary?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jim, but I'm taking Yannick Sinner just because he just has that look. I mean, to win what is it, 7? Win those 2 sets. I guess he's still playing right now. Where he's up 2 sets, but he's winning the tough matches, and he's built for the long haul. I think he could be the next Joker.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, women's side, who you got?
Man, I'm gonna stick with Naomi because I see a different type of player who's adjusted to this surface. She's gotten the favorite out of the way, and now I think she has to stay focused on beating, like say, those other players that she has to focus on beating more seeds higher than her in this, but they aren't the top seed. Let's say it like that.
Jimmy, who you got?
I got my fingers crossed that Coco can level it out and be consistent. And I think a lot of it's, walking away and going to rest and then coming back and getting up. And as we speak, Sinner just finished him off. And he finished him off in 3 sets. So saving energy.
He can go home and rest now.
100%.
All right, now here's one for you all. Who are you picking for the World Cup, Jimmy? Who's going to take it now?
Again, I can't see the bracket in my head, and I apologize. I should have looked at that this morning.
Let me help you out. You got Spain playing Belgium, Norway playing England, and then there's the last bracket getting figured out today. Argentina's playing Egypt, Switzerland's playing Colombia.
Given those matchups, I'm going to step out on a limb, my friends, and say that England will finally come back after all these years. And in my mind, that's 60-year drought for the people who think they invented the game and are convinced that they've won more tournaments than they have. But I'll tell you, that team has got a lot of talent. I'm not sold on Pickford as a goalkeeper, but they're good enough that they can work around that. That's how much talent they have. And they've got a pretty good draw. But,
Gary, who you got? What do you
England, England, and Harry Kane. That's that. I'm after what I saw last week. These last 2 games, it's England's. I think it's theirs to lose.
All right, Gary, go ahead and take us home, man.
Well, I don't know how you, with so much going on. We still have a lot more World Cup to play. We've got a lot more WNBA, and John, since you love summer basketball so much, the NBA Summer League, Rookie League has started up. and that's going to be interesting. I keep thinking that there's another event on the way. Oh, we're only a week away from the Major League Baseball All-Star game, John. Guess what? Right up the road in Philly. So there's plenty to watch, folks. Look, if you watch it, we're going to be watching it, and we're going to come back and talk about it.
Hey, you all, thanks for joining us again. Special thanks to our guru, analyst, and dear friend, Jimmy Bell, coming in and talking not only about what's going on with the World Cup, but sharing his thoughts on what's happening with Wimbledon. We greatly appreciate you, and we love you, Jimmy. Hey, you all, watch a little WNBA this week. Watch some preseason rookie basketball. Watch the World Cup. Watch some tennis. But above all else, just watch some sports. And before I go, let me just say this. I got Coco Golf, I got Joker, and I got Argentina. You all take care. Have a great week. We'll see you again real soon.